welcome to Food, Views, and Big Ideas. I'm Tawnya Barr.
And I'm Lucy Allen, and this is the podcast from us here at Straight to the Source.
In this podcast, we will be introducing you to the people who are driving our food and hospitality industry forward, whether it be on the land, in the water, in the kitchen, or from the boardroom.
Each of our guests are playing a significant role in the evolution of Australia's food identity and culture, and we want you to know who they are, their views, and their big ideas.
Hi, I'm Tawnya, and today I'm in the studio with culinary influencer, corporate executive chef, international public speaker, and MC, TV presenter, and good friend, Chef Adam Moore. Well, hello, Adam. Welcome.
Thank you, Tawnya. It's great to be here.
So you have had an incredible career as a chef, presenter, product developer. I mean, your CV is longer than my arm. So it's kind of tricky. I'm not real sure where to start. How would you describe yourself today, sitting in here with me in 2023?
Wow. Nearly a 30-year career. How do I explain myself? I have done everything from being a chef. I'm a qualified pastry chef. Qualified butcher, trained charcuterist. I'm an international judge in sensory. I'm a product developer, innovator. My world is very different, and I do TV when I can. I recipe create. I never stop. But one of the things I'd probably say is what drives me is that, you know, there's fantastic producers and farmers in this country, and as a chef, I get to cook that no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm creating a new product or whether I'm sitting in front of someone to create some new ideas for recipes. My day is different every day. And I love being a chef. I love the hospitality world. It's like one big family. And what I love is seeing people like yourself, who's been a very long time friend, a great support of my career. And I'm very lucky that I can work with producers, farmers, chefs in this industry, and really be who I want to be. So when I put food on a plate, it's understanding the ingredient or understanding how the ingredient works. That's what drives me. And that's probably why I went and, go, what's charcuterie? What's butchery? What's all these fun things? So that's me.
You've got an inquisitive mind.
Yes. Adam. The charity and mentoring stem back from when I was 13. I had very good mentors in my life. And a lot of people don't know I do charity from 13. Between the ages of 13 and 18, I raised over $2 million.
Was this a soup kitchen?
Yes, I started my own soup kitchen back in Penrith. I'm a western suburbs Sydney boy.
Yep.
And started things like soup kitchens. I worked with everyone from Lifeline to Legacy, anyone that needed money. I worked with nursing homes. I had a full-time job at school while I was still at school, and I was doing charity, and I raised $2 million. And when I was 18, got the Order of Australia, which most people don't get until they're 60. And that really drove me. And because I had some great mentors, that's what helped me really not only mentor chefs, but people in the industry, businesses, but also now young kids that are going through mental health struggles.
Is that what gets you up in the morning?
Look, I'll publicly say it, when I was 13, I had some trauma in my life. I had a very good upbringing, but this trauma happened, and got counselling and did all the right things, but that's what drove me. And charity and mentoring has been something that's been a big part of my life.
So when did you first start cooking? When was that first meal that you made and you thought, this is my career path?
So I almost didn't become a chef because of one dish. So I started cooking from a young age. I went to a co-ed Catholic school, and we had cooking from that day. So one dish, I was so excited because I had a full-time job. I saved up and cooked the very first dish I learned how to cook. And you're going to laugh at this dish because it comes back and haunts me over the years.
Okay, what is it?
Apricot chicken.
Right.
Now, I cooked it for my family. As I said, I'm from Penrith. And my family hated the dish so much that I almost didn't become a chef because of it.
Now, let me ask you, did you get the recipe on the back of the apricot jam jar? Or
I think it was. It was a recipe that was at school. I loved it. I thought the flavors were really cool. My mum and dad and my brother at the time, my sister was too young, thought it was too foreign for them, and they ordered pizza. And that was the biggest insult I've ever had in my career. But funnily enough, years later, in corporate world, recipe development, number one dish was apricot chicken, and it's come back and haunt me over the 30-year career. But I started young when I was cooking, and at 16 I found a real passion. At 13 I knew what I wanted to be. One of three things: a chef, which I definitely did, a teacher, which
you are.
I do now, and I loved working in theatre and drama. I was in musicals. I don't sing now, but all three of my careers are happening today. So I mentor kids, so teaching. I am a chef, and I work in the media and different outlets. And how cool is that I could do the three jobs that I've always wanted to do?
So that goes back to my very first question, and you've just answered it. Where from here?
Great question. Look, I think the next thing is my book. I want to, I have a massive collection of cookbooks, 6,500 somewhere abouts. But I love books, and I love, books from all genres, especially food books and food writers. So creating a book would be my greatest legacy. I have it there and it's ready, but I just need to find the right producer or the right publisher to produce my book. So,
well, if anyone's listening out there and you're interested in producing Adam Moore's cookbook, his very first cookbook, please reach out. We will put all his details in the show notes, so don't be shy.
Thank you for that one. Yeah, I think that's where I want to go. And I think as I've been doing more mentoring with kids with mental health, I see a big channel in that for me. I've unfortunately, and you and I, we've been friends for a long time, and you hear some of the stories that I go through. Seeing some kids take their lives in just in this environment has been the most stressful part of my career. And I don't want to see any kid or any child or any young adult that is going through pain. I want to be able to help them. So I think in the last 2 years really changed my mentoring focus, not just from chefs to anyone from a mental health space. And that's why I do a lot of work in mental health charities as well as the other charities I work with. But I think, interestingly enough, hospitality and farming, we work long hours, we work very stressful environments. It's not high paid. There is a lot of depression and anxiety around the industries we work in. So that's why I see a relevation.
What do you think the triggers are, or what do you think the core reason would be?
Well, there's a lot of different ways we could look at it. Hospitality, we've got long hours, short adrenaline periods where we can't burn that steam off. We're working hours that are public holidays or night times. There's no social outlet. Farming's kind of the same thing. You're isolated doing that. You've got timelines. Social media is probably to blame a lot more because the issues are out there more often. We talk about these things. And social media, I've seen evidence of that where people can be, I'm not a massive profile, but online people can reach out to you more easily. And people say some horrendous things. So if I'm getting it, imagine what these young kids are getting as well, or people that are probably a little bit more vulnerable feeling in that space.
I know we met years ago, and you've been on many of our Straight to the Source tours. So we've traveled the country together.
We certainly have.
And in doing that, it really does give you a different insight and a different kind of viewpoint from a farming point of view. But also it gives you an insight when you're on the road with other chefs.
You can talk.
You can talk, yeah.
We need to do that not as a community. Reach out to our farmers, because we have one of the harshest countries in the world to grow or produce anything. We go from one extreme, where it be a flood or fire. We have so many different avenues in this country. So working with your farmers and producers, knowing if they're struggling, working with suppliers too, that, during COVID, we lost a lot of staff with people aren't buying as much. So working with people like that, plus also your local restaurants and cafes, staff pressures, they've had to readapt. How do we, get out there? You support them, you talk to them. If you know a farmer that you're buying your meat off is not doing well, or they're for some reason aren't as sprightly as what they ask them, are they okay? Don't be afraid to, if you're in the kitchen after service, go, hey, do you want to catch up for a drink? Do you want to talk? There's plenty of opportunities to get out there and talk. And I think if we did that more, we could understand what's happening in the industry. We could, and I think COVID, we actually started doing that more as a family, because we realized hospitality was on its knees. Farmers are trying to produce stuff, and there's no produce going to a restaurant. Reaching out, and I think we did that very well. We reached out online. We didn't have to physically see people. There's farmers that I ring regularly from all different, backgrounds, and talk to them and just say, hey, how are you doing? And, things are happening or they're not happening.
It's going back to that human connection.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, what advice have you received throughout your career that you've really just held close to your heart?
What a question. Look, I had a lot of mentors in my life, and the one thing I think I learnt from all of them was giving back, and that's something I love doing. Yes, you can be the greatest chef in your restaurant or your field, but if you're not giving back, then what value are you creating? Where are you going with that? And I've kept that mantra all my life. It's something that I love doing. Sometimes you do get taken advantage of in that, but I've also been very strong in there, and I love giving back.
Well, in your career, have you been taken advantage of? And if so, why?
Lots of times, because I am a nice guy. I just love, I don't say no. That's probably a hard thing. But one of the things I love doing is understanding what makes people work and then helping where I can. So one of the charities I do work for, Cure Cancer, it's one of my favourite charities to work for at the moment. Originally, when I joined Cure Cancer, I knew of people that had cancer. Since joining Cure Cancer and doing a lot of work, we're working with researchers and doctors, which is amazing. I've now known lots of people, and it's come very close into my environment. So my father, for example, with prostate cancer, just seeing friends with breast cancer, people with different cancers, and it really affects you. And one of the things, taking that advice, is giving back. I've been able to, with Cure Cancer, not only work with doctors and researchers to understand where the money's going and what they're doing. And I'm a chef, but working in this space, I'm also a scientist, and I'm looking at things differently. So understanding where I can put value for the researchers, but also from a people just being generous. I've been in wards with cancer patients that have got days to live. I've sat next to people when they've passed on, and I don't want to get emotional, but this is just those little moments of giving back. It may not be important to me, but it's important to the person that I'm dealing with. It's remembering that everyone's human. You don't know what people's story is, whether it be cancer, whether it be mental health. Just go and appreciate what's around. And I think as I've taken my journey over the years, I've been more reflective as I've gotten older, that looking at what's out there, being appreciative of what I've already got, and not taking things for granted. Appreciating a farmer, going on farmer tours with you, understanding things like simple things like salt, how, the air, where did we go?
The Grampians.
Grampians.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Just to
it was Lake Dimboola.
Yeah. And then we also went to
Olsen,
South Australia, and
yeah.
Olsen's and Alex Olsen. I wouldn't have met some of these people and know that, we've got a great Australian sea salt, or we've got, amazing oysters produced in this country, or, kingfish that you see. Some of the producers have been very privileged. And, even in Adelaide, you've got people like prawn oil and lobster oil, which is phenomenal products. Understanding these products, truffle tours with you, you really get to appreciate what we've got. And we need to hear that more and talk about it more. Stop buying stuff from overseas. Let's buy local, buy Australian. Be proud of who we are. We also have a wealth of indigenous products. I've also been very privileged in my career to work with indigenous people, indigenous students, and encourage indigenous businesses, which is amazing, because we should be very proud that, I'm a third generation Irish person that's lived in Australia. I was born here, but our indigenous is the oldest culture in the world. Middens near your place in the national parks, that middens are the rubbish tips with the oysters, where the Aboriginal people have been eating them for 50,000 years, the oldest culture in the world. And this country needs to be proud of our indigenous heritage, our indigenous colleagues, and really be supportive. I think we're the only country
walking side by side.
Correct. We need to be one. It is one country. It is Australia. Yes, it's made up of an eclectic mix of people from around the world, but we don't celebrate our indigenous, heritage, or the indigenous culture of Australia that has been around for 60,000 years. As you know, Tawnya, that, bread has been discovered in outback New South Wales, bread making tools by the indigenous culture, which predates Egyptian by 20,000 years. The Egyptian records saying, hey, we're the first bakers. Well, no, you're not. Actually, the native indigenous of Australia were the first in the world to be the bakers. That is fascinating.
From a product development point of view, creating products for consumers, do you look at Australian native ingredients?
Very good question. So my background with the corporate world or product development is I fell into it by accident. I started with Mars.
How do you fall into it by accident?
I started as a sales role, very different. So Mars was more about the sales, and you just fall into product development. And I actually loved it, because I wasn't just taking my food from restaurant days or hotel days. I was now cooking, instead of cooking for hundreds of people, I was cooking for millions of people. So product development was great, because I did Mars, I did Campbell Arnott's, I forget some of the companies I worked for, George Weston Foods, which was bread and small goods. So all my careers have all fallen into, I worked for Suntory, Kraft Heinz, some of the biggest global companies. And I was very lucky as a corporate chef to persuade trends and insights of what people were eating, and the consumer and end user, how they would look at food very differently. So understanding an end user putting in a combi or a sous vide, or how they would use it, how they would put it on a menu. Whereas a consumer, what ingredients do I put at home? Is it simple to execute? I've got to feed kids. I've got all that sort of stuff. So you've got a different mindset. Creating products in Australia with Australian ingredients is something we need to all do. Some of the biggest brands in our country today, Gravox, started in 1917, which is interesting. Gravox started when UK had a stranglehold called Oxo in Australia, and gravy, Oxo, Gravox become an Australian brand. And Vegemite was the same thing. Vegemite 1911, and Vegemite was originally called Parwill. If Parwill, Marmite. So taking on the Marmite that was already out there, and Vegemite really come into its own. And there is a lot of iconic Australian brands today. Davis Gelatin, which is now owned by an international German company. Davis Gelatin was in Botany. It was one of the largest in the world, and we were one of the biggest gelatin makers, which also spurned other industries like Kodak Film, things like that. So really interesting. If you get into Australian history on food, is Harold Holt, actually, even before he disappeared, had a massive food company called Tendico. And Tendico was about Australian products, making Australian manufacturing for Australian products. So some of the biggest brands in the world are iconic Australian brands that were located here, that were made here. Things like Kiwi Boot Polish, global shoe polish company that was made here in Australia. It's not food, but it's interesting that we had so many great brands here that have gone international, and people don't realise how great we have and how lucky it is. So I've been very privileged to develop products that have an Australian focus. I've been very lucky to also incorporate indigenous ingredients when I could. Some people don't always appreciate having indigenous ingredients because there's a lack of understanding. But we've had, periods where in the 80s and the 90s we had Edna's Table. We had some amazing restaurants featuring Australian food. But one of the interesting things is I think Australian indigenous food is underplayed here in this market. A, because people just don't know enough about it. And B, I think people don't understand that it's probably some of the original superfoods. Incorporating lemon myrtle or wattle seed, which has now been done. There is an appreciation to it, but understanding it more. And I think also understanding we grow some of the best fruit and vegetables in the world. A lot of Asian ingredients, Asian greens and things like that are also grown and exported to Asia again because we have the space to do it. We have climates that can grow all year round, so we can have pineapple all year round. Using more of that and understanding what we have and being appreciative of the ingredients that we have access to. And also the manufacturing platforms that we have in this country, some of the heritage, the history, even CSR Sugar started in Piedmont, and it's now one of the biggest building manufacturers.
Right?
Yeah, it started in Piedmont.
Okay.
Or their biggest plant was here, and it was Sugar Refinery. It's no longer, it is CSR Sugar, but it's CSR's building materials, which started here in Australia. So we're innovative ingenuity kind of country. Some of the best inventions in the world that we use every day, like the bionic ear, the black box on an aeroplane, all Australian inventions. Wi-Fi is an Australian invention.
No way.
Yes. Google Maps was created by two Melbourne guys and a Sydney guy.
Well, when we talk about innovation and you think about mind-bending combinations that have happened in the culinary sense, does anything come to mind? I think of the cheeseburger spring roll, but...
Oh, I love it. That was, who had the claim to fame for that? Dan Hong? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think we stay away from that one.
Well, look, a lot of Australian chefs have really led the charge on things. So Bill Granger's been attributed to smashed avocado on cafe menus, sorry. So Bill Granger in there. I think people still appreciating what kangaroo means to them. Kangaroo is the healthiest meat you could ever eat. It's got low triglycerides that, help heart release, so things like that. But I think if we really have to go there's two iconic dishes globally that were both invented in Australia and unfortunately invented in Melbourne. No offence to Melbourne listeners, but spaghetti bolognese.
I was going to say, what are they before they take offence?
Yeah, so spaghetti bolognese, the recipe that we know today is not truly Italian. It is a dish that was created in about 1954 in Melbourne.
All right, what's the recipe?
The recipe?
The method
I don't know the recipe,
you know?
but I know that the other dish that was created in Melbourne is the dim sim. These are iconic dishes that are internationally famous that were created here in Australia.
So, hang on. Spaghetti bolognese
As
is
we know-
Italiano.
No, so ragu, bolognese or bolognese, the region, it's a very different product. Here, what we know as spaghetti bolognese, that was, I'm pretty sure it was 1954.
Okay,
But it
we're
was-
going to fact check this, but that's
No, I can tell you.
Don't need to. I've got more in the studio.
But people don't realise that Australia has been very...
Yeah.
Another iconic one that may be debatable is the Chico roll. It was created by Simplot
Right.
in near not Broken Hill, Bathurst. The Chico roll was created in... Actually, no, Chico roll was created in Melbourne and was made in Bathurst.
Okay, I think we could have a trivia
We can keep going.
game on the end of this podcast. Wow, all right.
So those
What
two
about
dishes.
The pav? What about the pav?
Pav, is it Australian or New Zealand?
I'm going to go with Australian.
It's a bit of both, and there's a lot of iconic dishes in Australia. So let's talk about pav first, and let's dispel that. Pav could technically be 3 countries. What 3 countries do you reckon the pavlova could be from?
French?
No.
Oh.
So definitely
New Zealand and Australia.
New Zealand and Australia is probably the biggest debate, and Russian, because it was named after Anna Pavlova, who was a Russian ballet.
Ballerina.
Yes, she was a ballerina, and she's Russian. So there is a town in Russia where Anna Pavlova come from, and they celebrate this lovely iconic recipe of pavlova. The debate goes that yes, it was created in Australia. Sorry, New Zealand listeners, but it was by a New Zealand chef who was residing in Melbourne. Again, Melbourne, lots of iconic dishes that created the pavlova, and it's in honour of Anna Pavlova, and a lot of people don't know that. So technically 3 countries can claim it, but it was here in Australia, in Melbourne. Yes, there's lots of, and people can check with me, there's lots of references between Australia and New Zealand who created it first. I've got a lot of different references that can show that. But it's interesting, you can take that too. If we look at Auguste Escoffier, who was kind of the grandfather of modern cooking as we know it, created a dish after an Australian opera singer. What dishes were they? Peach Melba and Melba toast, after Dame Nellie Melba, who was an iconic Australian opera singer that went global. And Auguste Escoffier created Peach Melba, which was technically like a meringue swan with peaches and raspberry coulis. And then Melba toasters, those tiny little toasts that were for canapé functions, but they're named after iconic Australians.
I'll be darned.
What about the Lamington? Have you thought about the Lamington?
That's Australian.
That is Australian. Do you know who created that?
I do not.
So the Lamington was created in Queensland. We moved a little bit higher.
Okay, yep. I think I do know this, but continue, please.
Lord Lamington was the Governor-General for Queensland, and Lord Lamington, who to the day he died hated the name Lamington and hated the dish named after himself, but he had a chef that created the product who was married to a Tahitian wife.
I do know this, and you know why? You've told me this before.
I've told you. I tell you this random facts.
All right, yeah, that's right.
So the Tahitian wife was important because she used to dry coconut at home. And one day the rumour has it that the chef come or Lord Lamington arrived and wanted all these guests, and they had stale sponge cake, and he soaked it in chocolate, used the coconut and served it up at a function. Lord Lamington was outraged, and for some reason that's been attributed to him, the Lamington. It's iconic. You and I have friends with Eddie and Min at Tokyo Lamington. And that beautiful spongy cake that is so iconic, it was named after people. And people forget that so many iconic dishes that we eat today have a great history. And I think we, like the indigenous culture, talking about, their heritage and their culture and telling the stories, we need to do that with food and be proud of Australian cuisine. What does Australian cuisine mean? And it's interesting. Australian cuisine is an eclectic mix of global, international countries that have all come together and had some impart on the knowledge of this land and what we eat. And we're probably one of the luckiest countries in the world to have seafood and, this beautiful beef and lamb that we have, to have the most beautiful vegetable produce and some of the most wonderful producers that you and I have seen and met and talk to regularly, and probably a lot of your listeners.
Absolutely. Well, when you think about culinary trends, and I was talking to a farmer on the weekend, and he was saying that often chefs will, ask him to grow specific vegetables and what have you, or harvest at a particular time because they want them at a particular size. What food trends have you seen have been your favorite over the last, let's say, 30 years? Can you pick like 5 of your favorite food trends?
5 of my favorite food trends. Okay, the first one I can say is definitely black garlic. I think seeing lots of chefs use it now. Frank Faulkner from EXP in Hunter Valley, having his own black garlic. There's lots of other producers now.
Garlicicious. Have you tried the pearls? The garlic.
I love that.
They're delicious.
How great is black garlic? I think it's a wonderful find that we've always had. I also think indigenous ingredients, like if we really get into it, seeing finger lime now on menus, seeing lemon myrtle and all those fun things come across. I think indigenous ingredients is definitely it's going to be the trend for the next 5 years because internationally it's got more recognition than what it does here in Australia, and I think people should be very proud or understand how to use those ingredients. Okay, now I think. If you really look at it, I would say one of the things you introduced me to was the Akoya oyster. Not an invention, but a fantastic little oyster. It looks like a scallop between a mussel, oyster.
Grows like a mussel on a line.
Yeah,
yep.
Fascinating. And I was introduced only, 2 years ago or a year ago?
A year ago, yeah.
A year ago with you. I think it was fantastic that it come from Lewin Coast and the history of it.
For those of you that don't know where Lewin Coast is, it's in Albany, Western Australia.
Sorry, I forget.
Yeah.
Geographic. I think that's a really cool find to find something that's so new that chefs can use. And then after, being introduced to it, seeing it on restaurant menus and people being very proud of it. So I think that's really cool in there. We're up to 3. I'm really stuck now.
So maybe I could reframe the question.
Yes.
What about when you look at value adding and innovation? What we've noticed quite a bit in the producers that we work with is we're helping them think outside the box on how to perhaps create another brand or another income stream.
Yeah.
And, green garlic comes to mind. There's a wonderful producer who's created, granules and powder and the green garlic.
And that pile to win gold medal.
Yes, the Sydney Royal.
Yeah, Sydney Royal. A beautiful way of producing a great product and or in abundance as well, and getting chefs, that is a new culinary find. So it's something that was quite different when I first tasted it. The intensity, the diversification of usage was just like, oh, wow, what if I put that on top of an oyster? Or what if I put this on, a beautiful side of beef? You could as a finishing ingredient or an actual hero ingredient in things like mayonnaises or sour cream. That was phenomenal. So when a producer can find a product, inventing doesn't mean reinventing the wheel. Inventing means looking at a product and how many other ways can I use that product, or, what's not out there? How do I change that into something that's, oh, wow. I've seen chefs do things like, oh, here's Vegemite, but I'm going to make a Vegemite caramel that goes on a pavlova, for example. That's pretty inventive, because you're looking at something differently and you're pairing it really nicely. The garlic's a great example. Finding ways of, creating a better or a newer product that people can go, oh, wow. Goat. Yes, people don't eat goat in Australia, but goat's consumed in lots of different countries around the world. And I love things about, Jo Stewart and I have arguments about goat all the time, and she's the gourmet goat lady, and it's amazing because she's now got this smoked goat. And one of the best things, I was up on the farm with her and she made breakfast, and it was smoked goat and pickles on a toasted sandwich for breakfast. It was ingenious for me because I'm like, wow, smoked goat. It's so different.
Have you tried the beef bacon
I love beef
Oh
bacon.
my gosh. Claystone Meats down near Canberra. Beef bacon, people, if you're listening, it's absolutely beautiful. And again, it's just not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but being inventive.
Yes, and looking at what wonderful resources that you have and how do you do, what do you do?
Exactly. It's interesting when you think about all the different turns your career can make from being a chef.
Yes.
I don't work in a restaurant. My career has evolved over the years, and yours, when you look at from when you were in the soup kitchen to where you are today, and the extraordinary experience that you can't put a price on, and you can't, you value it, but the experience that you've had through every facet of your career choices has really brought you to where you are today.
Yeah. A lot of artisans, a lot of great people. Everyone from Macca Knives, who does the knife rolls.
Still on my bucket list.
Still in your
brother.
bucket list? Oh, I've got a beautiful knife
Yeah, I
roll
know
from
you
Macca.
do. Yeah.
Right through to people like Dog Boy Knives in South Australia, who creates beautiful tools for chefs, right through to producers. Everything from a farmer and producer, like whether it be the dairy that I'm using, the meat that I'm using, Australian products are phenomenal. And yes, to get to work, meet some of the chefs in this country. And I wouldn't have, I've had the best career ever. And I wouldn't change a thing.
It's still going.
It's still going. I haven't finished yet. I'm not dying yet. But I've met wonderful people, wonderful people that work hard in this country. It's the reason why Australia is Australia. And I think hospitality is why it's such a great industry.
So what advice would you give a young chef listening to this podcast?
Yeah, so any young chef that is listening
Or can I reframe that?
Yeah.
Maybe not young chef, a chef at any age going into the industry. Because there are a lot of folks that have career changes and they decide to be a chef and they're in their 30s, 40s, whatever.
anyone that comes into this industry, you're doing this because you love food or there's something that attracts you about this industry. I think a lot of chefs I speak to say that they're creating memories for different people, and you are creating memories. You don't realize that that person proposed over a dinner that you created or a dish that you created, or it's someone's birthday or it's someone's, anniversary. We're creating memories, those moments you don't get back. That's what we do. We serve our heart on a plate. If you're passionate about this industry, first of all, learn. Read up on as many different techniques as you can. Don't just Google. Understand what books. There's lots of books that don't have things that Google can't find. There's Larousse Gastronomique is a Bible that every chef should have in their collection. And even if you don't read the whole thing, if you read pages from it and understand, oh, that's what Chateaubriand is, or understand where a dish comes from, be proud of what you're using. Definitely get out there and know your farmers and producers. Go on farm tours, go on straight to the source tours. Definitely go out there and see what the ingredient is. Understand what black garlic is. Use it. Or if you've never used a lamb loin, go and buy one like we used to go in a David Jones food hall and you buy the best piece of lamb rack or lamb loin and you go home and you cook it proudly, or you put a new ingredient in there and you definitely be proud of it. Play with the food. Ask questions. Do not be afraid. You've got social media. Reach out to the chef that you want to reach out. Reach out to the producer or the farmer and ask questions. Sometimes you can also learn not only from them, but they can learn from you. So definitely get out there, read lots of things and experiment. Be proud of who you are. Listen to advice. There's so many great mentors, and you and I know so many great chefs like Darren Templeman, a great friend of ours, Sam Burke, Vanessa Barnes, yourself, Tawnya Bar. You have helped so many young people and young chefs, not only in competitions, you've also ordered ingredients for people. This is what we're about. This industry is a great industry. I love it every day. I get out of bed every morning and I'm so happy to be a part of an industry that has farmers, producers, manufacturers, chefs, wait staff, people that are in wine, even the travel industry, which is a very big part of what we do. Get there, network, keep that network. I probably have, and not being cocky, I have the best network around, and I'm glad I do. And I can call on a farmer or, hey, I'm going to do a special dinner in a couple of weeks' time. Can I get your truffle? Can I get this ingredient? Smoked eggs. Use those ingredients. This is what people should be doing. Getting out there, learning from your LaRousse, asking questions, reaching out, and understanding and being proud of who we are as a country. If you're new to this country and you're a chef here, whether you're from Nepal, UK, US, wherever in the world, get to know the products and how you can use your culture and marry it with Australian ingredients. That's me.
So what projects do you have in the pipeline now?
Oh, good question.
Or goals? Maybe we talk about goals.
Goals. So right now I'm working heavily in plant-based, which is a very different world for me. And a lot of people may make fun of the plant-based, but it is food for future. I have been involved in things like cellular agriculture, which is fascinating by me and understanding how things work. I am very privileged to work across so many different little brands at the moment. I have created my own brands in the past. I've done my own beverage brand, and so maybe there's something in there coming up. I'm working on a couple of TV pilots at the moment with some different people of things that are not being filmed. I love the media industry, so there's some things happening there. But right now I'm also on a massive weight loss journey. I have been losing a lot of weight. I've lost over 55 kilos so far and still losing. I was a pretty big
Your
boy.
chef jacket here, Adam, is looking a little loose.
It's like a big dress, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that is also opening new avenues for me. That's changing my direction. I will be in food as long as I'm around. I think I'll be in food till the day I die. And whether that's supporting farmers, producers in some way or form, or product developing in my own products, there is lots of options at the moment. But I will still focus on charity and mentoring young people. And that's something that's really driving me still. So there's all those opportunities. And if anyone wants to publish my book, that's the not plugging that.
No, do it. So this weight loss journey and this mindset shift, what is the catalyst for that?
A couple of different things. Look, in this industry, it's a little bit unhealthy. As we talked about mental health before, it is an unhealthy industry. I didn't get fat from eating lots of food. I got fat from eating the wrong types of food at the wrong types of hours. But what's interesting is I've had to change my whole mindset. It's family. It's been around for people for a long time. Young people that I've mentored that, you need to be there for. That is important for me. My friends and family, the people that I love, that motivate me each day, and you're one of those fantastic people. We've got so many great people that have supported me in this journey. It was a big journey to take. It took me a long time. Not that I couldn't lose the weight before. I've really struggled, and I think mentally, that's something that was always attributed to my past, and it's always bounced up and down and back around. But I've made a clear decision. I'm going to do this. And it's interesting. The world does view you very differently. We have an expectation on what people should look like. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm seeing the good sides and bad sides of weight loss, which is amazing. A great journey. I could write a book in that as well. But what I love is that I'm determined. I'm not going to give up. And it's probably the same focus I have as a chef. I'm not going to give up. I'm here for the long term. And thank you to anyone that ever supported me and has been that background noise to really push me to be the better person I am. Yes, now I feel awesome that 55 kilos down, massive life-changing thing. I've even eliminated a lot of coffee, which is scary in my world. But I'm healthy.
So just to back up a bit, you
Yes.
said being in hospitality, is unhealthy. So did you mean it's unhealthy across the board, or for you?
It's both. It was definitely across the board. Long hours, eating the wrong things at the wrong time, that sort of thing. But I've made a lifetime decision to be healthier, a decision to be around longer as much as I can, to do the work that I'm still doing, to be around for my family and friends, but also be around for producers and farmers. And, you know, I've got new things to invent. I've got new things to create. I've got new flavors to talk about. I'm not going away in a hurry. And now that my life is healthier and will get healthier as I keep doing it, I'm doing the things I've always wanted to do too. I'm fencing. I'm boxing.
I was just going to say, how do you chill out? How do you rest? How do you relax?
How do I chill out? Well, I read cookbooks and I listen to lots of music, especially Australian music and bands. I listen to a lot of vinyl. I'm a bit of a music nerd when it comes to it. That's stuff that people don't know about what I do, and it's been fascinating. And then the charity and mentoring is something that I really look. I've done nearly a whole career just working in charity and working and mentoring young leaders and the next generation of our industry, which motivates me and it just relaxes me. I have a wife and daughter, a beautiful daughter, who is growing every day. And you have been privileged to see my family. You're part of my family in that space. And it's so wonderful to be doing the things that I really enjoy. I've got things on my bucket list, fencing, for example, and fencing not as in putting up fences. If any farmer does need help, I'm happy to do that.
Oh my God, your inbox would be full. Come on, yes.
Adam. So fencing, it's a French art of sword fighting. I love that. I'm fascinated by that. As I said, I want to write my book. Who knows? I may even, join people on different things and runs and, different things. So I've got new energy. And what has also been great is the impact that, yes, I'm positive about what I'm doing in my life and being healthy. Other people around me are also saying, hey, I'll join you. And, that's been really lovely to see people go, oh, wow, if Adam's doing it, well, great, I'm going to do it as well. And if we all do that, it's all part of reaching out.
It's like the Adam effect. You do have that. You definitely have that.
I've never heard that.
I just coined it.
There you go.
Very much.
Thank you. Adam effect.
Adam, thank you. Thank you so
Tawnya.
much.
If anyone wants to ever ask me a question, please reach out on social media. I'm always around.
Yeah.
I always help as many people as I can. I get to as many people as much as I can. But I'm here for this industry. I love what I do. I love, our friendship and, it's been a long friendship. It's amazing. So thank you for having me on today. Thank you to every farmer, producer that works tirelessly to support this country and the backbone of this country. And thank you to every chef that gets into this industry and creates memories, creates those moments that our diners, our customers love each and every day. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of what you do and stay passionate. That's the best thing I can say. Stay passionate. And if you're losing that passion, I'm here to talk to you as well.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We really hope you enjoyed listening as much as we've enjoyed the conversation. You'll find links to anything mentioned in today's chat in the show notes. We have some more extraordinary guests lined up and we would love you to join us again. So please make sure you're following us on your favourite podcast app so you don't miss future episodes. We'd also love to hear any of your feedback, good or bad, or perhaps you've got a guest you'd love to hear from. You can let us know. And the best way to stay up to date with what we're doing, who we're talking to, and where you'll find us around the country is to become part of the Straight to the Source community at straighttothesource.com.au/community. Until next time.